So I was working with a client yesterday, and she was somebody that had been in an accident, a road traffic accident. And I often work with people that have had some sort of physical trauma or some sort of emotional trauma. And when we experience something that's a shock to the body, then we will hold the emotion of that event in our bodies. And even though we might heal physically, so this lady had a few broken bones, and she was treated for those, and she was healing quite well from those, there was still the emotion from that accident that was still in the body, which was then causing problems on an emotional level, anxieties and things about going back out and, things like that. So when I work with somebody like this, because I've learnt this through something that I went through myself, which I'll explain in a minute, I understand that because emotion is just energy in motion, it's just something that needs to move through us. It's designed to actually move through us. And I've talked about emotion before in this way, and how when we experience a really positive emotion like joy, then we just, we naturally just let that energy move through us until it's shifted. But when it's something a bit of a lower note, so if you imagine the notes on a piano, something a bit lower, so fear is a really low frequency, we find it more difficult to allow that energy to move through us, even though that's what it's naturally designed to do. We've just been taught to hold on to it. So in this case, if you've experienced something quite shocking to the body, an accident or something like that, then as soon as possible after that event, it's really important to just go into the body, closing the eyes, take a deep breath, breathe out slowly, drop into the awareness that you are, the part that animates the body, and just really start to notice, where do you feel that? Where are you holding that energy in your body? And generally, 9 times out of 10 with people, that is in the torso area. So from the neck to the lower abdomen. But sometimes it's in the head, or it might be somewhere else. But generally, it's in that space there. And the body, when you tune into it and feel where it is, will tell you. You will feel a physical sensation where that emotion is. So once you've found where it is, just acknowledge, I feel fear. I feel it in my abdomen. I feel it in my tummy. I feel it in my chest. I feel it in my throat. Just notice where the body is making itself known, telling you where it is, and just really allow it to be there. So fully acknowledge and allow, I feel this fear. I feel it in my abdomen, and I'm just fully allowing it to be there. Now, the mental body will try and take us into a story of, oh God, this happened and it was terrible and traumatic. And it will just take you out of the body, back into the thoughts. When that happens, just come back into the feeling. So that with the awareness that you are, take control, come back into the body and just keep feeling the sensations of the emotion. Breathe into it. So take a deep breath into it. Just fully acknowledge and allow it. And as you exhale, you can imagine that energy moving out of the back body like smoke. Just feel it moving through you. And it will only take a few rounds of breath and a few minutes of focus on that emotion. And it will move through the body until it's shifted. So you will feel a difference actually physically in the body when it's shifted through. Now, I like to say to people, because I think it's quite easy to understand, that if you imagine that your awareness, the part of you that animates the body, people call this different things, soul, consciousness, the I am presence, whatever you want to call it, but the infinite part of you that animates this body, that's the awareness. So the awareness that is you is the part that alchemizes this emotion. And it does that by, like the sun shining on an ice cube. So if we imagine the ice cube is the energy that's kind of stuck in the body, and the sun is the awareness that is you. As you shine your awareness onto the ice cube, it then melts and then it becomes a steam. So it alchemizes the energy and allows it to move through you. We're not trying to change it, we're just allowing it to move. That's all it's got to do. That's what it's designed to do. It's not designed to stay stuck in the body. It's when it's stuck in the body that it creates all sorts of physical ailments and problems that we deal with later on. So in my personal story, the reason I understood this experientially, and why I'm able to teach this really confidently is because I had an incident that happened to myself quite a few years ago. So my dog is 6. Um, when he was 4 months old, I was traveling in the car with him, and he was just in the footwell of the car. And I was just driving along. It was June. It's quite warm. Got the windows open a little bit, and he was just on the footwell of the passenger seat. Pulled up at a junction, and there was 2 cars in front of me, and I was just minding my own business, listening to some music. And then all of a sudden, this guy, who straight away I was like, oh God, this is not a great situation, looked crazy, was clearly on drugs, had no top on, was dirty, just really sort of kind of scary looking. Came, and I thought, he's coming straight to my car. And of course he did. So he came straight over to my car and threw himself onto the bonnet and was banging on the bonnet and was shouting, "Get out of your effing car." And I was like, oh my God. But you just go straight into dealing with it mode. So he was saying get out of the car, but in my mind I was like, I can't get out of the car. I have a baby in the car. I can't leave the baby. Even though my safety was probably in danger, it was like, absolutely not. So he was like, get out of the car. And I was like, no. Then he came round to my side and was like shouting through the window, and I was fumbling around trying to shut the window, but couldn't actually get my body to work. And was just saying, get out of your fucking car. If you don't get out of your car, I'm going to kill you and your dog, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like very calmly saying no. And I must have said this a few times. So at some point in this very quick exchange, he opened my car door and took the car keys out of the ignition, which obviously turned the car off, and I was just sat there. And then luckily, he took the keys and then just ran off down the road and threw them away somewhere. But after he'd gone, I was just sat there and thought, right, well, I need to now get out of the car and probably phone the police. So I did that, called the police. There was a few people that stood with me, made a statement and did all of the things. And then it wasn't until I got home that I could feel that my body was in shock after the event. So what I did was I sat down, I closed my eyes, I took a deep breath, and I dropped into my body. And I was like, how are you feeling? Where are we feeling this fear? And the fear was, quite strong in my body. It was quite strong in my abdomen, in my chest, in my throat, in a lot of the areas at the front. And I just fully allowed all of the emotion to do with the event to be there. I allowed the sensations in the body to fully be there. And I stayed with it until it felt completely clear and it had fully moved through me. So I just think it's a really important thing to share, and something very easy to do, so that we are not building up and stuffing down emotion in the body, because obviously then that causes problems later. So as I was working with this lady, I just thought it'd be quite a useful thing for me to share, and something that you can start doing if you're experiencing something emotionally difficult or you've had some sort of physical shock to the body. Okay, thank you.